Okay.
Hello, I'm Sothira. I'm an internship for Authentic Leader LLC for this summer, and I'm here with Professor Como and Professor DeChico, who is a co-author the Authentic Leader book. And Professor DeChico and Professor Como, can you please describe and let me know, do you think you are authentic leader and why?
You want to start this, Dr. Como?
Yeah, Professor Como, please.
Certainly, I'd be happy to. This is a very comprehensive question, Kevin. Authentic leadership is not an absolute concept in my view. There are degrees of authentic leadership. Authentic leaders do not possess all of the necessary qualities to be an authentic leader. It's not an all or nothing thing. They possess many of the necessary qualities and recognize that these qualities can be further developed day to day in facing challenges they're confronted with. In my view, there are 4 must-have qualities to be an authentic leader. They are trust, transparency, empathy, and accountability. Now, what do I mean by each of these concepts? Well, trust is really the belief that one can be relied upon to act in such a way as to promote the common good. Some good examples are Abraham Lincoln. He was committed to saving the Union, and President Franklin Delano Roosevelt was committed to bring the US economy out of the Depression in the 1930s. Certainly, we put our trust in these people that they would take, if you will, the ship into the port. Transparency is another key quality. That means mean what you say and say what you mean. Martin Luther King's constant message was that we should all be judged not by the color of our skin, but the content of our character. He truly believed that and made it clear. Mother Teresa made very clear that leprosy needs to be addressed one step at a time, leper by leper. Life is a marathon, not a sprint. You start with 1 brick, put another brick down, and things get done. Another way of describing it is Rome was not built in a day. Empathy, probably, if not number 1, number 2, that means having a feeling for someone else in what they're going through. In the words of Dale Carnegie, put yourself in the other guy's shoes. That is, reflect on the human connectedness of authentic leadership. That means we have to really take the trouble every day to listen to the people we're interacting with, get to know what their goals are, what they intend to accomplish, and then work in such a way as to help them achieve those goals. But again, empathy, you got to feel for other people. Accountability, and this is severely lacking today, in my view, in the legislative process, either locally or nationally. It means taking responsibilities for one's actions. I'm responsible. I don't care what else someone else has done. I am responsible for what takes place. Not blaming others, but being proactive in addressing challenges. President Harry Truman was famous for saying, "The buck stops here." He probably made, Kevin, the most crucial decision in the history of mankind to decide to drop the atomic bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. He did not want to kill Japanese people, but he made a calculated decision. If I let the war go on, so many more additional American lives will be lost. We cannot afford that. So he decided to drop 1 atomic bomb. And when the Japanese didn't surrender, he said, "I'm telling you, I'm going to do it again." He did it again. And he brought them to their knees and brought World War II to an end at that point in time.
I'm strongly agree with your point about, responsibility. Most people nowadays, they doesn't accept their fault or accept their right. They just go like, "Oh, I think this good." And then, it doesn't go well. And then they keep blame others.
Yeah, and you got to really ultimately take responsibility. We're hearing today quite a bit. Inflation is bad all over the world. As a result, we shouldn't be worried about it. It's not that. It's here and now. I don't care what's happening in the rest of the world. We're in the United States. What are you going to do in your policies within your power to try to bring inflation under control? So that's just an example of that. Another example of taking accountability, if you recall, John F. Kennedy decided to invade Cuba to get rid of Castro. the Bay of Pigs fiasco. Was it a success? Hell no, it was awful. But he took responsibility and said, I'm going to resolve to stop the spread of communism in other ways. That may have cost him his life, as you well know, with the assassination, because of the stand he took against Castro.
I'm probably too young for this history, but yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, I mean, these are things that, again, I always say that history tends to repeat itself. So I like to use examples of what happened in the way back, but also today. But there are things that Lincoln did, FDR did, that are still as relevant today as they were back then. Okay,
They
My
are good
view is-
leaders.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, JFK and Lincoln, they are good leaders. I heard a lot of their speech, like it very flow and it makes sense to me.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, Lincoln. I'm going to get into this a little bit. But Lincoln's speech was a part of the shortest in history to get his American address. Part of the most effective. When I really look at it, authentic leadership is a continuum. It's a work in progress.
Mm-hmm.
Authentic leadership traits can be constantly improved. So when you say to me, basically, what makes me an authentic leader? I say to myself, there are some things that I'm doing well there, but I need to improve in some areas. I can strive to develop more trust in others, and I can work to increase their trust in me. What can I do to get people to believe what I'm saying, listening to my message, and how can I trust them more? What steps can I take to get to trust other people more and not feel so betrayed that they're going to betray me? I can become more transparent by articulating the basis for my actions. Why am I doing what I'm doing? What is my moral compass? What are the standards that I'm trying to follow and get things done?
I believe that it makes sense. Trust is, in order to be a good leader, you need people to trust you. Without trust, you just nothing.
And that takes time, and that's not something you can really do overnight. Also, I can listen more to others to increase my concern for their plight, so as to make me more effective and allowing them to become the best version of themselves. When I was in both the corporate and the academic world as an administrator, as a dean, as a chief economist, I would try to learn as much as I could about the personal lives of my workers. Not that I wanted to pry, but if I understood where they were coming from, I would be in a better position to help them. Again, the example I often give is I had a woman working for me who did a tremendous job. She had 4 kids. She said, Bob, I love working for you, but I just can't do it with this schedule. I got my kids. What can we do? I put them on flex time. I did job sharing. Almost got me fired, by the way, because back then in the 80s, that was unheard of. But again, what I did is I took the trouble to listen to others, see what their needs are, and that allowed me better to allow them to effectively accomplish their goals. And then basically, I think if I can do these things, that'll make me more and more of an authentic leader. So it's not, in my view, Kevin, an absolute concept. We're always striving, and I guess the way I always like to describe it, and I'm big on quotes because it helps me when I want to remind myself, authentic leaders are guided by, I would say, 3 fundamental principles. Success is a journey, not a destination. It is a process. The fun is on the way getting there. When I was writing my dissertation back in the 1970s, the most satisfying time? Yeah, when I was finished. But damn it was going through the process. Every day say, I'm getting better at this. It's going to get done. I'm really going to contribute to the state of knowledge and economic theory. And that did a lot for me. Also, the road to success is always under construction. You're never there. There's always going to be challenges every day. And as you face those challenges and are successful in meeting them, you will find you get better and better at doing what you want. And ultimately, the simple statement, life is a marathon, not a sprint. So I want to thank you, Kevin, for the opportunity to address your question. It was an excellent question, and hopefully I answered your question satisfactorily.
Thank you, sir. Professor DeJago, can you please add something to that?
I can maybe elaborate on that a little bit to the point of taking Dr. Comeau's wonderful assessment of what has happened through history on certain figures that have in our lives have made a difference. And like you said, Kevin, you were too young probably to remember most of them, but they significantly impacted a lot of things that we do today and the decisions that they made. Having said that, when I was getting ready to put my second book together on the leadership gene, I wanted to address who I thought was an authentic leader. Not being judgmental, but what did authenticity really mean? And I didn't even know the word, what the word really meant. I know what it meant if I looked in the dictionary, but what did it mean as it related to leadership? So what I did was I went through some people current day that I would like to interview who I thought might be good leaders but possessed a leadership gene. So let me explain what that was. I really felt that everyone has innately some type of a gene in them that makes them take the lead when necessary. And most people would probably say, why would anyone want to take a lead? I mean, there are leaders, there are followers. And what I thought is they would have to have purpose.
I think about the gene in the book, according to the book, the main character, Kate, she have a really smart gene, right? She have a really high IQ.
Right, well, I think, Kevin, you're referring to our current book, The Authentic Leader.
Yes, sir.
So the leadership gene evolved into, but you're making a great point, Kevin, because the leadership evolved into the authentic leader role. But I'm just trying to give you insight as to how I got the idea about the authentic leader. So I said, well, what if somebody came out of dormancy and really felt that they had this need to help others, but it never really had an opportunity to develop? So I said, I got to come up with a person. And honestly, Kevin, this is exactly how it happened. At the time, I was still pretty much working a full-time load at Curry College in Milton, Massachusetts. And I got a call from the continuing ed department. And they said, I just want to make you aware that there's someone coming into your class, but he wants to have a talk with you before he starts the class. Well, I'm always open to talk to anyone. I said, this is kind of bizarre. Why would he want to do that? And she said, are you in your office? I said, yeah. She said, close the door. I said, oh boy. She said, he is the superintendent in chief of the Boston Police Department. His name is William Gross. And I said, okay, why does he want to talk to me? She says, I don't know. Well, long story short, I talked to him. He ended up on you know what he asked me when I got on the phone with him? He said, do you really think this class will be good for me? And of course, I said, yes. And then he turned and he said to me, I'm on the phone with you because I wanted to see if you were legitimate. I said, what? He said, I said, I've been in this school at the time, it was almost 17, 18 years. He said, I wanted to see if you were the real thing because what I learned from you, I want to give to the 2,500 cops right now that are in my charge. And I said, okay. And anyway, long story short, round circle, got in my class, and he actually put a lot of his police officers to the Question School at BU for training, tactical training, strategic training. But I said, I'd like to interview you. I got on the phone with him. And he said, okay, make an appointment with my admin, come on in. Now, I interviewed him as superintendent in chief. And I said, why am I here to, I said, I want to thank you for taking your valuable time to meet with me. And we went through a whole litany of things. And then he said to me, and he looked me right in the field, he said, the first thing I want to say to you before I answer your questions is that I am honored to be sitting across from you. And I looked at him, I'm saying, here's the superintendent in chief of the Boston Police Department. And then it never came to fruition, but I said to him at the time, how would you like to write a book with me? And he said, okay. He said, what do you want to write about? I said, what would you like to write about? He said, real leadership. And then it dawned on me what authentic meant. Real. Not textbook learning, but learning that you can make a difference in the service of others. So at the time, I had just published The Leadership Gene. I gave him the book and I autographed it for him. And you know what I wrote on that book? And this was exactly for 13 months before it occurred. I said, to the next commissioner of the Boston Police Department, City of Boston, it happened, Kevin. He became the commissioner. Why did I think that? Did I have a crystal ball? No. Am I a Houdini that can, whatever it is that you could think of making things think? No.
Well,
I looked at him. Go ahead, you want to say something?
yeah, I was saying that that's nice for you that, you know, the book will help the chief Boston police to be successful. It sounds very nice. Professor, do you think that the title or how much money does a person make that person be the best leader or the true leader of himself?
Great questions, Kevin. Number one, I think what he did, and I think you hit it right on the head, is he looked into himself first. Because he was probing what authenticity was about. So when we decided to write the book together, we got authentic leader and we put it in a concentric circle. And all of the things that led into what makes somebody authentic went into that circle. In fact, I probably still have the paper drawing somewhere here. And this leads me to something that's going to embarrass Dr. Como. But when I was thinking of who, like I said, never came to fruition with the commissioner because he got too busy, I got too busy, and then he resigned his post and I've never seen him again. But the thing of the matter is this. I wanted to write this next book about opportunity cost. I wanted to write about what does people give up not to be real leaders, not to be authentic leaders. And I thought of who I thought was a truly authentic leader. And that was Dr. Como. I wanted an economist because he was on point with opportunity cost, but also I wanted an individual who I really believed was authentic and continue my journey on authenticity. And I found that Dr. Como had embodied all of the things that he talks about in his teaching points and why he believes in them, as he just described so beautifully a few seconds ago. That's somebody that I definitely wanted to take my life to that next journey, to talk about authenticity. And that's the truth of what I thought of as an authentic leader. Now, and if 30 seconds, I'll explain to you. Do I think I have to go around circle with all that? Do I think that I'm an authentic leader? As Dr. Como said earlier, leadership is a marathon and not a sprint. I can only answer that question when I take my last breath.
I think you're an
Let's
excellent
say-
leader. I only doing this internship with you for like 6 weeks now, I believe. I learn a lot from you. You teach me a lot about leadership. And believe it or not, I'm planning on doing it for my career because my concentration is a leadership concentration. So I'm definitely gonna be like a leader for my career path.
I'm honored, Kevin.
Yeah, and I do agree with you that Professor Como is he's a true leader. I mean, I know him like what, 7 years, 7, 8 years since I was at Dean. Every time I have question, his door was like 5 steps from my classroom. I just knock the door and ask him some question. He gave me alternative course A, B, and C, and let me figure it out. Come back to him the next day or two, tell him what I want, and he support me with that. He's a really good mentor.
I want to thank you both for your very, very kind words, and I hope I can live up to your aspirations for me. I do view my life as a continuum, and what's exciting about facing each day is I have another opportunity to develop skills that I don't currently have and to improve those that I do have. So again, I want to thank you both for your very, very kind words.
Well, they wouldn't be words unless they were authentic.
Yes, sir.
That's
So,
right.
Professor
You
Como,
really
do you
believe that.
think, do you think how much money does a person make or a title make that person a leader?
You know, this is a very perceptive question, Kevin. And when you posed it to me, I said, he really has opened up a Pandora's box here. 2 statements about money stick out of my mind. One of them is people often say money is the root of all evil. And another one is you can never be too thin or too rich. So if you start with that, I think what we really need to do to assess your question is, what is the definition of leadership? Very amorphous concept. To me, it's often defined, very simply stated, often defined as the ability to influence others. Clear communication is the signature trait of a successful leader. Let me stress, one cannot be an authentic leader without having excellent communication skills. It is essential. Okay. Now, does having material wealth help one spread the message? Absolutely, because it allows you to put money in cyberspace, do it in person, and on social media outlets. You need money to do that. It was what I would call a necessary, but not a sufficient condition. If you think about it, spending money on getting a message across doesn't necessarily get you there. You know, a great example, the 2020 presidential, actually the 2016 presidential election. Hillary Clinton spent more on promotional ads than Donald Trump by a long shot. Donald Trump had no business winning that election based upon the monies that were being spent. But Hillary Clinton's message was not focused and was not driven by content, simply by the number of words. Think about it. Lincoln gave the Gettysburg Address, the shortest speech in American history, and arguably the best speech ever written. Very, very small, quick, didn't put people to sleep. And I think that's very, very important. So what you need to do is, I think, 2 things to be an effective speaker. Number 1, tell stories, and Lincoln will always tell stories. If you follow anything about him, it'll be that. And also, you have a sense of humor to get across to people. What you're trying to do is engage people. Money will help you get there, but it is not the only thing that'll get you there. You've got to be very, very careful. And I judge people's communication skills by the density of their speech. That is, do they say more with less? It's got nothing to do with money. You know, you can run all kinds of ads you want. You don't need that. But somehow engage people to get them, you know, again, was Nelson Mandela or Mother Teresa, were they effective leaders? Hell, yes. Did they spend a lot of money getting the message across? Nelson Mandela was in jail for 27 years. Mother Teresa, day by day, didn't spend any money. I know very few people would not say they're very, very effective leaders. So what it comes down to is that if money helps you achieve success, how do you define success? Many people today judge success by how much material wealth you have accumulated. We have examples of that. We have Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, they go on and on. But the question becomes, is money the thing that makes them the leader, or does it sometimes get in the way because they sacrifice other things because they want more and more money? How do you define success? I mean, that's the key. And I argue with people about this all the time. They think the dollar sign is the measure of success. It is one measure. The scorecard contains other things. What have you done to help others around you? What have you done to advance humanity? And how do you define success? To me, the simplest one was given by, you're probably too young to remember this, Kevin, by a guy by the name of Earl Nightingale. And he said, success is the gradual attainment of a worthwhile goal. Day by day. Examples: completing an educational program, such as a master's or bachelor's degree, which is what you're doing in the master's program at University of Lowell, or completing a home improvement project. You build a house day by day. Now, an important question that arises is, what is the opportunity cost of accumulating material wealth? What are you giving up to do that? Think of Steve Jobs, and I think about this all the time. Head of Pixar, head of Apple. The guy had pancreatic cancer, and if he'd gone to the doctor and concerned himself with his personal life, he'd be alive today. He didn't have to die, okay? Warren Buffett, he's got money coming up, you know the money he has. He drives a car that's 12 years old. He probably has the same box of cereal that he had 5 months ago, okay? Bill Gates contributes to national
king
food.
of investment. He is the king of investment. He is.
Yeah, I mean, he's a very simple-minded guy, and he says, basically, if you're going to sacrifice time with family and social connections, is it worth it? And again, I guess I would say, to the extent that pursuit of wealth becomes the dominant motivation for our actions, it ignores the essential quality of leadership to promote the common good. People say to me, Cuomo, what is your chief goals in life? Right now, I got 3 things, and I'll give you an order: to be the best husband I can to my wife, to be the best father I can to my kids, and thirdly, to help those around me and society in general to promote the common good. In that order. That doesn't mean you give them up, but there's a trade-off there. But I'm not neglecting, however, my personal life or my professional life. If I work for a corporation, I'm in that position. When I was chief economist of Boston Edison, my job was to increase the profits of that company as best I could legally. When I was dean at Merrimack College, when I was dean at Dean College, my job was to advance curriculum, put forth programs to increase the ability of my students to lead productive, successful, and happy lives. Those are things that, you've got to really specify to do that. And I don't think we do that enough. And you and I discussed this a couple of days ago, Kevin. Elon Musk, he's a guy, he's a multi-billionaire. He wants to buy Twitter for $44 billion. He can't get enough people to say he should be allowed to do that. So I don't care how much money he has. He is not getting it done. So essentially, my synopsis, my answer to your question is that is money necessary, or does it make you an effective leader? My answer is it helps. I won't put it down, but to the extent we become obsessed with it, to the preclusion of getting other goals achieved in my personal life, that is not where we are. So hopefully that answers your question as to the role wealth plays in leadership.
Thank you, sir. I think we all set for today's interview. Thank you, Professor Coleman, Professor DeCicco, for your time today to teach us about and explain us about what the true leadership means to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
My pleasure. Okay. All right. So, all right. just